जा मैं ख्वाब ख्वाब सा तेरी आंखों में जागूं रे तू इश्क इश्क सा मेरे रूह में आके बस जा जिस ओर तेरी शहनाई उस ओर मैं भागूं रे मुस्कुराना भी तुझी से सीखा है दिल लगाने का तू ही तरीका है एतबार भी तुझी से होता है खामोश में मैं कभी बाहों में है तेरी जिंदगी है
गुड़िया रे गुड़िया तेरा गुड्डा परदेसिया जोड़ी आसमानी हो गई शगुन पे देखो शादमानी हो गई
तेरे संग यारा खुश रंग बहारा तू रात दीवानी.
Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing good. So today I'm back again with another video, and in this one you can see I'm dolled up as a bride. So this is 2020's bridal makeup look, and also in this one I tried something different, and that is a storytelling which is very popular right now thanks to Bailey Sarian and Jamie French. I love watching them, and their videos are so entertaining where someone is actually doing their makeup and talking totally unrelatable things to what they're doing is so highly entertaining. So I wanted to try something out like that, and I gave you guys the option in my Instagram to choose if I should start this with my normal makeup look or with the bridal one. I also mentioned that the bridal one is a little detailed video, so if you guys want me to start with this one, I might skip on a lot of makeup details. So still you guys chose the bridal one, so here I am doing this story thing with the bridal makeup tutorial. And I wanted to start out with this romantic story that I read about 12 to 13 years ago, and it's a very dear story of mine. Like, I love this story, and it's actually a novel, but I don't remember the writer's name. So if I find out the name, I will surely mention it in the description box below for you guys. It's about two girls existing in 2 centuries, and they kind of switch place. So it's a very fun one, and you guys can actually call it a fairy tale. And whoever I know actually knows about this one, because I always tell my favorite stories to my friends and family. So this is a very dear one to me, because yeah, I read that when I was a teenager, so it's very special to me. So I wanted to share it with you guys, so hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And the video is going to be very long, so make sure to grab some popcorn. Another thing, if you find the video too long, then just speed up the video. So I will be talking really fast if you speed me up, and then you can just finish the video in a short while, hopefully. So let's get started with the video without any further ado. Before starting the makeup, I'm taking the Wishful Yo Glow Enzyme to scrub my face with, and then I'll go in with a moisturizer. So let's start with the story. So our main character is Christy Kendrick. She is from New York. She's a successful model, and it is the year 1999. She grew up in Indiana with her parents and her only sister Danny, and when her parents died, she moved out of Indiana and she shifted to New York, and also she sold her house and everything from there. And her sister was already settled in New York with her husband. She moved in New York, and then she hustled, and within 2 or 3 years she became a very well-known supermodel. She had money, she had everything, she had attention, she was part of the glamour world, you know. She also had a boyfriend, and it was not for a very long time, but the story starts with Christy being very sad because she found out that day that his boyfriend was actually cheating, and it was in the tabloids that he ran off and got married with another actress. So basically he was actually using Christy for some attention to save his dying career, and then he just, you know, got married with another lady to climb stairs. So she was very heartbroken, and she was talking with her sister, and she was very tired of her life. because it was exhausting being a model. She had the attention of everyone, but she just wanted a home. She wanted someone who would love her like no other. She was heartbroken and she realized that she doesn't have anyone in her life, and she was all alone. Her sister was already married. She had 2 kids, but she had no one, like literally no one to call her own. By the way, I'm using the Smashbox Photo Finish Smooth and Blur Primer. That night, apparently, before going into bed, she just was thinking about her life in her balcony, and she looked at the starry night and she had the urge to do this thing which she used to do with her sister, and that was wishing on stars. So they had a riddle kind of thing which they used to utter before wishing on the star, and she actually had a very strong urge for no reason that night to wish on a star. So she did what she wanted to do. She wished on a star, and she wished that she was someone's wife. She wished for a family, and she just wanted to be someone's wife. No hectic schedule, no hectic modeling shoots, no hectic life. She just wanted to be a wife. So that was her wish, and then she went to sleep. But she didn't realize that it was about to come true. I'm just using my Elegant Pro HD concealer in the shade Fawn to color correct my face. So the next day when she woke up, she realized that she is actually not in her bedroom. She's not wearing her clothes. She is wearing something else than she usually wears, and it was kind of looking like she was in a historical set of some sort, because it was not her bedroom, and the furniture and everything, the design and everything looked very odd to her, and she freaked out. Upon her freaking out, she realized there was someone, and that's where everything gets interesting. And then comes the character of an angel. So we get to meet this angel called Jubal, and he just told Christy that her wish actually got granted. And she was like, what wish? What are you even talking about? Are you nuts? Are you high? Exactly, that would have been my reaction too. So she was freaked out, and she was just like totally not getting what he was talking about. And he just explained that, my dear child, I just granted your wish and you are in England. So she was like, no, I'm in New York. I'm in no way in England, and this is where I live. And she just opened up the curtain and she just realized it's actually not New York, it's England. So she totally freaked out, and she was like, who are you? What are you doing? Just get me back in my time. I don't get this crap. And she was just not getting it, why he would just grant her wish now. And she asked him why didn't he grant her wish when she wished to turn her sister into a dog, and some silly wishes that she used to do when she was a child. Why didn't he do that? And he explained that, my dear child, I actually granted your wish because there was someone else who wished something similar, and I just could only do that because there is something that you need to see. So he just wanted her to see a picture, and she realized it was her picture, but she was looking a little different due to the clothes and the time. So he explained that I could only grant your wish because the person you switched place with is this one, and she actually looks like you, and she sort of wished for something similar. That's why I could grant both of your wish, and now you are in her place, and her name was Christiana. So Christy and Christiana, so it's kind of like similar, you know. She realized that she actually wished to be a wife, so she asked, what is going to happen to me? What now? So he explained that she is actually getting married today. So the day she realized she is in another century, in 12th century to be exact, it was like 800 or 900 years back than her own time. So she was in the past and she was getting married today. Well, he was just going to leave her there, and he said that there will be a time when I will come back to you again and I will ask you if you want to stay or if you want to go back. And she was like, I just want to go back right now. I don't want to stay here, and I don't want to marry this stranger. And did Christiana actually wish to not marry that person? And Jubal just said that yes, she actually wished for that. She wished she didn't want to marry that guy, so that's why that wish happened, and she wished that she was someone else and she didn't have to marry the guy. She just thought that if Christiana didn't want to marry this man, then definitely there was something wrong. So now let's get introduced to her husband-to-be, and his name was Darian Maxwell. I'm using the Huda Beauty Nymph Body Highlighter as my face illuminator underneath the base makeup. So let's meet Darian Maxwell. He was the Earl of Greyston, and he recently acquired the title of an Earl after his father and his brother died in a war. So he was actually not in the line of becoming an Earl, but the unfortunate event of his father and his brother's death made him the Earl of Greyston. And he was also very known and a very trusted knight of the king. So the king actually ordered him to marry Christiana. He was not actually into the marriage either, so he just wanted to marry, he was just following the order, and he just wanted to produce an heir for his, you know, lineage. So let's just give Darian Maxwell a face, and also Christiana / Christy. So let's imagine Michaela Morone as Darian Maxwell, and Darian probably had long hair if I'm not wrong. So I saw that Michaela Morone actually used to have long hair too, so he would be perfect for the character of Darian Maxwell. And for Christiana / Christy, I think Nina Dobrev will be perfect because she played so many roles in Vampire Diaries already, so we have seen her in historical attire too, and I think she is the perfect match. Darian also didn't want to get married because unfortunately he was previously married and his wife cheated on him, and she later on died, so he had a very bitter experience with marriage. So he was just not into it, and he was actually in love with Isabella. So when he got cheated, his heart was completely shattered. He was heartbroken and he just couldn't take the pain, and that's why he actually swore to himself that he wouldn't get married. But when the king ordered, he just couldn't say no, and he had to obey the order. And it was just that he also needed an heir, if you think logically, so he thought, yeah, why not go with it. And the king assured him that Christiana is a very well behaved and a very well prepared lady who will be perfect as a countess. Christy was totally freaked out when she got to know all this from Jubal, and she just was begging him, just take me away. I don't want to marry this guy. I don't want this life. I just wanted to leave immediately, but he was not granting her that wish. And she asked him, why did you choose me? Why not someone else? How can I just make this work? This is never going to work. And he was like, child, I chose you for him because you are a woman, and that guy needs a woman. Christiana was a brat. She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth, and she was just not the perfect match for Darian. So the angel was playing matchmaking here, and he just advised Christy to believe in everything no matter what, and to go with the flow and follow her heart. So he left her upon saying that he will arrive again, and when the time comes, he will ask her if she wants to stay or if she wants to go back to her own century. So Jubal also left Christy with some of Christiana's journals, and he also translated them for her so that she could learn about her life and about Christiana a little bit more from her journals. And Christy also found out about Christiana's personal maid, who she used to call Nun. So when she saw Nun entering in her bedchambers, she was desperate and she was telling her, please believe me, I'm not who you think I am. I am not Christiana. I am Christy. I'm from another time. Just let me flee this situation. I don't want to marry this guy. And Nan already knew that Christiana didn't want to marry Darian, so she just thought that she was trying to do everything that she could to get away from the marriage, but apparently it was Christy who was begging to not get married. And to none, it really seemed odd that Christy was actually talking in a very weird accent, which was very unheard of because obviously she's from New York. And she also found out her supposed father, which was actually Christiana's father, and she tried to tell him too that please don't make me marry this man, sir. I'm not your daughter. This is a big misunderstanding. Please just let me leave. I'm not your daughter and stuff like that. And he just laughed at her and dismissed her to get ready for the wedding because Darian was actually coming that day. So when Christy was actually getting ready for her wedding, she was desperate. So she just begged Nun as much as she could, and Nun was pitying the girl, and she just said that, okay, I will help you to flee the castle. You just need to go into the stables, and there you will find a boy, and he can give you a horse, and then you can flee the castle and just try to be safe. Christy did as she was told. She went to the stables and she found out the horse, and she didn't actually even let the boy make the saddle for her. She just immediately left on the horse, and it was real unladylike at that time because girls are actually not supposed to ride the horses in that way. I guess they are supposed to sit like in a very ladylike position in their saddles when they ride the horses. I think we saw something like that in Princess Diaries too, right? Remember? Where Anne Hathaway was riding the horse and the horse got freaked out and her charade was totally revealed. Darian actually arrived a little early into the castle because he wanted this wedding to be done as soon as possible, and he had to leave for London and meet the king because the king ordered him for a very important meeting or something like that. So he was supposed to leave for London very soon, so he just wanted to get the marriage done as soon as he could. So he arrived a bit earlier, and upon his arrival he got the news that the girl was missing. The girl he was supposed to marry was missing, and he was furious because he had no time. He just wanted this to be done and over. So he took it in his hand to go and find his bride. So later Christy found herself in a forest and she was alone with a horse, and she was just talking to herself, freaking out, and then she realized there was someone else with her, and that someone is none other than Darian Maxwell, and he came to pick up his to-be bride to get the ceremony done. And later they arrived into the castle, and yes, Christy she was smart, so she didn't back down and she didn't feel threatened by Darian, though she realized he was a very handsome man and she kind of had this instant attraction to him. So later they were married, and it was just a very hurried ceremony, nothing romantic, nothing special about it. Christiana's father actually got to know that he's leaving for London as soon as he arrives in Greyston, so he's just going to leave his newly married bride there, and it didn't make any sense to him, so he was a little bit upset. But Darian actually explained to him that he couldn't help it, it's the king's order and he just need to go. It will be good that Christiana could get a little bit time to mingle around the castle and also with her environment and everything without him. So he thought it was a good idea, and he convinced Christiana's father, and she had no say in that. So when they were on their way to Greyston, Christy actually asked Darian to be faithful to her because Darian was like, you are mine and you're not to be unfaithful to me. this was actually his past betrayal talking, because he was hurt by his previous wife, and he actually just made an oath to himself that he's never going to love anyone else and he's never going to let anyone in his heart. So Christy was a little taken aback from this conversation, and she was like, if you want me to be faithful to you as a wife, then I expect the same thing from you, because in that era and that time, I think earls and knights and this kind of like dukes, they used to take mistresses, and they had multiple mistresses in their different states. Christy didn't like the idea of that, so she asked that if you want me to be faithful, then you have to be faithful to me too. And Darian was actually taken aback by that, because he was not used to such an outspoken lady. Then finally they arrived at Greyston, and it was a very beautiful place, and when she arrived there, she was like waving to the villagers and everyone else, and Darian was kind of shocked because he actually didn't expect her to do that, and he was just taken aback that she was acting very friendly. And it was not actually a friendly manner, it was like, I am there for you, I am your person now. And Darian could feel the vibe that it was a really nice gesture for Christiana to do. Well, I'm calling her Christiana, but mind it that it's actually not Christiana, it's Christy. So later that day when they arrived at the castle, she got to meet Darian's sister, whose name is Sidra. And also there is someone else, that is Tilden. Sir Tilden is another knight, but he didn't own any land or any title, so he was a very noble person too, and he was a very dear friend, or like best friend of Darian's. So Sidra and Darian, they had a very long reunion, and Christy first of all mistook Sidra as his mistress. She was kind of taken aback when she arrived and saw that someone was fleeing into her husband's arms, and she was like, what is going on? Does this man already have the audacity to be unfaithful to me when I just told him that I want him to be faithful to me too in this marriage? And later on, Darian saw that she had the doubt in her eyes, so he just cleared that this is actually my sister, and they actually got to meet after a very long time, because Darian was doing his night duty and he was never around into the castle, because his father and his brother used to take care of their state and this kind of things, and he was serving the king, and he was a very noble knight. And after his father died, he got the title, so he actually didn't meet Sidra for a very long time. So it was a very emotional reunion for Sidra and Darian. So Christy actually did feel bad that she mistook them for something that they're not, and she apologized later on to Darian. Then Christy was left with her sister-in-law in the castle, and she was just trying to get herself accustomed to the things, because it was a different century. They had no light wasn't invented back then, there was no electricity, there were no modern appliances to get used to, and everything was very, manual. So she had a very struggling time that week to get accustomed to those kind of things. And Sidra was very helpful, and she also tried to learn as much as she could about a countess or her countess duties, because she had no idea about this kind of things, and she just used to try to study about this kind of things and ask everyone around about what she was supposed to do and things like that. And it was very odd, and everyone actually noticed the accent, because it was very different from anything they have heard before. But it was going really well for Christy. She was mingling around with everyone, and then she also started visiting the village, and there she got to meet with the villagers. She used to talk with them, she got to know about the lives of these people, and she used to tell the children of the villagers stories, fairy tales, and things that she knew about. Doesn't it remind you of Rapunzel with the kids mingling around with the villagers, dancing around with them? It's like she's like a perfect princess. So she was mingling around with everyone. She used to tell the children's fairy tales, and everybody started addressing her as Lady Christie. She wanted everyone to call her by her name, so they used to call her Christie. So as it's kind of like a short form of Christiana, no one actually paid any attention to that. And also Sidra knew that she was not around from this time, but she actually didn't believe Christie, obviously. So when she heard Christie's, weird accent, she asked her how and where did you get that from, and Christie warned her that you are not gonna believe that, and Sidra told her, you can try me, and she told her that I'm actually not from this time, and I'm not who you think I am. So Sidra was taken aback by that, but she just laughed it off and didn't pay that much attention, and she said, oh really? So everything was going really well for her. So Darian came back after 7 days, and he got to know about his wife from everyone else, that how friendly she was. She was a very nice person. She visits the village every day. She mingles around with the people. Darian kind of felt proud that everyone was talking so high of her. When Darian came back, Christie asked Darian a favor, and she asked him to wait until they consummate their marriage, and also they should get to know each other a little bit more before completely getting into the marriage. So he agreed with her, and as days went by, Christie actually started feeling for Darian. She was actually liking him very much, and she got to see a complete different side of him, because the rumors that Christiana actually heard about him were not true. He was actually a very friendly and a very nice guy inside of all that macho man interior. So she could see that he had a lot of pain inside of him, and he was just trying to be this strong person, but he was actually fragile inside. And one evening, everyone was around in Christie's place, or you could say Darian's palace. So the men were just jesting around, and they were just having a conversation themselves. So they were talking about that one of their men will actually drive them to the edge of the world. And Christie heard that, and she had to interrupt no matter what, because the world is actually not flat. The world is round. She knew that, but they didn't. So she interrupts their conversation and says that that will never be possible, because you can't go to the edge of the world because the world is actually round. And everyone just started laughing at her, and Darian actually found that really cute, that she always just had this very weird imagination. He used to think that she actually imagines this kind of things, because she used to tell the kids a lot of fairy tales and stories like that too, and those were actually not invented at that time, and Christie was actually from a different time. So he didn't knew that, and he used to be very amused by everything that she does, the way she talks, the way she behaves, and the way she actually describes everything, the way she imagines this kind of things. And they all laughed at her, and she was like, you guys don't know what you are talking about, and you wouldn't actually even know about these kind of things, because you will probably die before you get to know any of these. And that was it. But actually Darian was warming up to her too, and he was starting to grow this lovey-dovey feelings for Christie too. So everyone else around in the castle could also see the change in Darian's behavior, and they just noticed that he was much more happier when Christie is around, and he was smiling more. He was a different man. He was warming up, and he was not just the grumpy person he used to be anymore. So everyone noticed the change he was going through, and everyone was really happy that finally maybe he can forget about his bad marriage and he can move on with Christie for a better life. So that's that. And later we got to know a bit more about Sidra. So we already got to know that Darian's father and brother died in a war. So the war was with actually their neighboring state or kingdom, and that was called Rithmore, if I'm not wrong. So the Rithmore was in hands of Frederick Rithmore, and Sidra was actually betrothed to him. But later on, Darian's father and his elder brother found out that he was actually not a good guy, and there were a lot of things that was not actually okay with that guy. So Sidra was actually supposed to marry Frederick Rithmore. She was betrothed with him upon her birth by their fathers, but when the time came, Sidra's father and his elder brother realized that Whitmore is not the right person for Sidra, because he was a very vile, nasty man and he was a sadist. So the word actually got around somehow that he's a sadist, and they refused to marry Sidra with Frederick Rithmore, and that actually hurt his ego very badly, and he killed Darian's father and his elder brother. That's how actually he got the title of the Earl, because otherwise he wouldn't have gotten it, because it was supposed to go to Darian's brother. But Darian never minded that, and he always wanted to please his father. So he was always the kid who, wanted his father to praise him, to approve what he was doing, and he was always so eager for love. So you can understand that how Darian was. He was actually a very poor soul, and he actually never got love like he should have gotten from his very childhood. Darian was aware that this man will not sit around and not try anything on them. He might actually attack them, and he just wanted to be ahead of time, and he wanted to prepare himself to battle with this man. And he set out a plan that he's going to spread word that Sidra is actually traveling to London, and on their way to London, probably Rithmore will try to attack them, but they will be over prepared for Rithmore, and they will attack him back and kill Rithmore and take him down, so that they can actually not harm him anymore or his family anymore. And he actually wanted to avenge his father and his brother too. So it was a perfect plan. They were planning on that and everything was going well, but Christy actually knew about this too, and she was really worried about Darian, because she was starting to grow this feeling for everyone, and she loved Sidra a lot too as her sister-in-law. And there was also Sir Tilden. So let's talk about Sir Tilden a little bit more, because Tilden was actually in love with Sidra. He confessed that he loves her, and he said that please don't go with this plan, just make your brother think of something else, but don't follow his plan. I can't take it because I love you. I can't see anything happening to you. Just please say no to him. Don't go with this plan. So this plan which they set out for London. So he wanted to make her not go with the plan, but Sidra was very stubborn too. So she said that she was going to go through the plan. So when the day came of the actual mission, Christy was very nervous, and she didn't want Darian or Sidra or anyone else to go with the plan. So she was very afraid for their life, and she was also very concerned, and she had this feeling in the pit of her stomach that something is going to go wrong, something might go wrong, and they should not go with the plan. And she also realized that she actually loves Darian a lot, and she is in love with him. And she also previously once actually expressed that to him, but he just totally cut her off and told her to not say that anymore to him, because he doesn't believe in love and love is not for him. And he also told her about his previous wife Isabella, So let's imagine Isabella as let's just imagine her as Addison Shepherd from Grey's Anatomy. I think she will perfectly fit the character because that woman was a cheater too in that storyline. If you actually follow Grey's Anatomy, you know what I mean. So she was a very evil woman. She cheated around him all the time, but he didn't knew about it. And once he came back home earlier from one of his quests, and he found her with his captain. And later Isabella actually begged him and told him that it is not what it looks like and stuff like that, but Darian didn't want to hear any of it. And the audacity of that woman, she actually begged Darian of forgiveness, and later that night she also fled with her lover. And when they fled, they were actually killed by Ritmore's people on the way. They were attacked by them, and later they were left on the road to rot. So Darian's men later on found out Isabella, and they buried her and gave her a funeral. But you know, Darian lost his trust from love that day. It was a very sad thing to happen to anyone. That's why Darian was like that. So he didn't want anything to do with love. But when they were leaving for their mission, Christy couldn't hold herself back. And I just need to tell you this, you don't need to say anything back to me, but just know that I love you and I wish you well, and I just hope you come back home safely and just take care of yourself and everyone else. So she said that, and she had a very heavy feeling in her heart. She bade them goodbye, and everyone went on their way to fight off Ritmore. So for a little bit of cream contouring, I'm going in with the Huda Beauty Tantour in the shade medium. So later that day, Christy was feeling very lonely. So she thought, why not go into the village and meet with the villagers a little bit and spend some time there. So she did as she thought. She went to the village and she spent some time with the villagers, and she was feeling a little bit okay. And then when she was about to come back to her palace, she just saw something a little farther away into the forest, that there were something or someone or something glistening in the sun. So she thought she would just check if someone got hurt there or something like that. She had very well intentions in her heart, and she went into the forest, and then she realized there was no one. And then she thought maybe she imagined this, so she was just turning around to come back, and it was actually very farther into the forest, so she was actually very far away from the localization, so no one would realize that she is actually in the forest even if she screamed or something like that. So then when she actually turned around to make her way back to the village and to her palace, she realized there was someone, and that was a man. And she saw this very nasty man who looked very vile and evil. So then she was like, sorry, I don't know if I know you, but I just need to go. She tried to act smart, but it didn't help, and she later on realized that that man was actually Frederick Ritmore. Christy actually knew how to fight, so she tried her best to flee the situation. She kicked Frederick and she tried to flee from that area, but it was of no help because his other mans attacked her and they actually took her. So Christy got kidnapped. So Christy was very furious and she was like, you're not gonna get away with it. My husband is going to come and find you and he's going to kill you. You're gonna pay for this. But that's where Christy's nightmare began, because Ritmore just said to her that he's not going to come after you after what I have sent him. So apparently Frederick Ritmore sent Darian Maxwell a letter stating that Christy was actually going behind his back, meeting with Whitmore, and she was the spy who told everything regarding their plan, and he already knew about their plan to attack him and everything from Christy. She was meeting him up every day in the village when Darian actually thought she was meeting with the villagers, so he just completely twisted and turned Christy's situation and portrayed her as a cheater in front of Darian in that letter. And Frederick read whatever he wrote to Darian to Christy, and Christy just lost all hope because she knew that her husband was not someone who trusted women easily because of his betrayal, because of the betrayal from his previous wife. And if he got that letter, God knows what he will think about her and if he will ever come for her or not. So now I'm taking a little bit of the Rare Beauty blush in the shade Love. Just taking it a little bit. So if you actually want a review on this, you can check out my video on this specific blush. I did a full-on review for that. I will try to give the link somewhere here. Meantime, it was night time already when Darian and his men set out for the mission. So they were all camping at the night, and they were just thinking when will Whitmore actually attack them. So they were just camping, and Sir Tilden tried to sneak into Sidra's carriage and tried to tell her that how much he loves her and stuff like that. They were actually very much in love, but they couldn't be together because Sir Tilden didn't actually had any title. He didn't have any land. His father and his brother, they actually couldn't hold anything else. They lost everything. So he was a noble knight but without any sort of land or any sort of title. So he actually couldn't marry Sidra, because to marry someone of that sort you need to be something and you need to have lands and you need to be an earl or duke, but he had nothing. So it was kind of really hard for them, but Sidra also loved him a lot, so it was really a sad part from their side. But Tilden loved her a lot. And in the meantime, Darian was around the fire that they set out for the camp that night, and his soldiers actually found out a boy around their campsite who bear the flag and colors of Whitmore, and they immediately brought the boy to Darian and said that this is a Whitmore boy, and he said that he's carrying a message from Whitmore. So everyone was on high alert by then, and Darian got the letter that Whitmore wrote him, and when he read all the contents and when he got to know about the betrayal of his wife, he was totally heartbroken, and he immediately turned into that hard person. And Tilden was curious to what was happening, and he asked Darian what was happening and what is in the letter. So Darian just handed him the letter and just went away. So Tilden was the sensible one. When he was handed the letter and he read the contents of the letter, he was like, Darian, you seriously don't believe whatever is written in this one, right? But Darian was on another world by then, and he was like, can you explain why was Christy always in the village? Why was she going there? What was she doing in all of those hours? You don't have an explanation for that, because no one actually knew what was she doing around that time of the day when she was away from the castle in the village. She surely did what was written in this one. She betrayed me, and Tilden was like, she's still your wife, you need to go and get her. So I'm just going to set my face with the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Powder in the shade Banana Bread. And when Tilden told him that he needs to get back his wife, Darian was very serious and final in his word when he said that I no longer have a wife. To Christy in Whitmore, she was firstly taken into a dungeon-like place where it was completely dark and she was so afraid. It was wet, it was dark, it was filthy, like the place was completely filthy, and she was just thinking about herself, and she was just thinking, where are you, Jubal? Why am I in this situation right now, and what am I going to do? I am in a different situation. I'm not in my time. I am here stuck in a dungeon. Will I die here? I didn't wish for this. Where are you now? And for a few days she was actually stuck in that dungeon, and time to time someone would just come and give her a little bit of food so that she could survive. And there was absolutely no light. It was just pitch black, and there were rats and God knows what. So she was really afraid in that place. So my base is almost set. Now I'm just going to go off camera and do my eyebrows, and then I will come right back to do the rest of my makeup and tell you the rest of the story just in a second. So I have done my eyebrows and one side of eye makeup, and I'm just going to do this one right now, and I'm going to zoom you guys in, and then we will continue with the story. I have taken off the concealer that I had there, and now I'm going to be applying the P. Louise base in the shade Rumor 2. So a few days later, Frederick paid a visit to Christy, and he then took her to his place, and he actually didn't do anything with her because she was Darian's wife, and it's not because he was a nobleman that's why he didn't do anything with her or didn't harm her in any way. It was because he was disgusted that, you know, she was Darian's. So he was a twisted man, he was a sadist, and he used to do vile things with women. As days passed by, she was losing all hope of Darian coming and rescuing her, and she started plotting, and she started to see if she could flee the place on her own. And she was also given a maid called Gladius, and she was one of Frederick's victim. So Christy knew about it, and she was very hopeful maybe she could befriend that maid and try to gain some information. Today I'm going to use this palette. I have had this for about a month or so, but I didn't use it, and I wanted to review it, but yeah, I didn't get the time to do that, so I'm just going to use it today. And this is the Nikkie Tutorials X Beauty Bay palette, and this palette is absolutely gorgeous. I just love all the shades in here. It's just so damn beautiful. So I'm going to start with the red shade called Mikai, and she was trying to find an opportunity to talk with Gladius and convince her to give her information regarding what is going on in the castle, because she wasn't allowed out of her chambers. So Gladius actually agreed, because she actually didn't want it to be in that place too. And Christy actually offered Gladius that when she leaves this place, she will also take her with her, and she will be a free person. She wouldn't need to be a prisoner in this place anymore, and she will take care of her. So that was a very tempting offer for Gladius, because she didn't want this life, and she didn't want anything to do with Rickmore, and she just hated that place because she was tortured there. So she agreed. That Christy told her was that she needs to be alert and to see who comes into the place, and give her any sort of information regarding who's visiting and when they're doing what and when the gates are open and stuff like that. So Gladius gladly agreed to that. So back in Greyston, Darian was heartbroken, and he decided that he will not have any sort of feeling for this woman anymore. And when he gets back Christy from that place, he will just get his desired heir from her and just banish her to one of his places or state where he wouldn't need to see her anymore. She will be his wife, but he wouldn't just care for her anymore, or he wouldn't let her live with him anymore. Now I'm going in with the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette because I wanted to use a very neonish orange, so I'm going in with the shade called My Man. Also, they were plotting against Ritmore and they were going to attack him, and it was a very sudden plan. So mind it that there was still a spy in Greystone who was giving all sort of information to Ritmore. He was passing all the informations and he was the main culprit, and Christy was not, as we all know. Christy didn't do anything and she didn't even knew about Ritmore or anything. So when they were plotting against Ritmore, the spy actually didn't have the opportunity to alert them that Ritmore is going under attack. So the day of the actual attack came very soon, and Tilden actually sent a man from Greystone to inform Christy that they are coming for her, and this news was gladly passed by Gladius to Christy, and she was alerted regarding that, and she was supposed to be near a secret door from the kitchen area, and Gladys helped her to disguise herself as a maid, and she gave her some old rugged clothes so that no one will know that it's actually Christy who's passing by the halls, because she wasn't allowed out of her chamber. Every soldier of Frederick's was not around the castle and everyone was asleep, so it was the perfect time to attack them, and gladly they actually were winning the battle. Now I'm going in with this yellow called No Joke, and this is going on top of the orange. So Christy was rescued by one of Greystone's soldiers, and Tilden got hold of Ritmore, Frederick Ritmore, and he was totally unprepared, so Tilden succeeded in killing him. So Frederick Ritmore was dead, and with that all the misery of the Ritmore people ended too. So they were able to rescue Christy, but when they were leaving, the battle was still going on with the leftover soldiers from Ritmore, and she unfortunately got hit by an arrow and she was severely injured, and they needed to be at Greystone as soon as they could, otherwise they wouldn't be able to save her because she was losing a lot of blood. Tilden also assured that the villagers of Ritmore knew that they're in good hand and no harm will come to them, so it was informed later that Frederick is dead and they're in good hand, they wouldn't be harmed in any sort of way, so do not fear the Greystone soldiers, and everything will be settled in a few days, so they don't need to worry about anything. So that's how it went, and they rushed to Greystone with Christy because her life was at danger. And if you didn't notice, let me just point out, Darian was actually not in the battle. He was back in Greystone. He was waiting for everyone to come back. So after everyone arrived back in Greystone and Darian took in the situation about what happened, and Christy was severely injured, he couldn't take it. He was really sad and he just wanted her to be okay. Mind that he actually loved Christy, but he didn't want to admit it, and he just thought that Christy betrayed him, so he turned cold, but he had feelings for her. So they took out the arrow and they tried to treat her as much as they could, but then came the fever and she was just unconscious for about 3-4 days or a week. So Darian was beside her during the entire time, and he just wanted her to be okay. He didn't want her to die. Thankfully, Christy was okay and she woke up after a few days and she was getting better, but she realized nothing was like before, and Darian was very cold towards her. He would avoid any sort of contact with her. He wouldn't even acknowledge her if she was in a room. So she understood that he was not the same person anymore, and he just still believed that she was a cheater. So she was heartbroken too by his behavior, because she just wanted him to see that she is not that person he thinks she is. Darian actually knew about Tilden and her relationship all along, and he knew that they were in love. So when Ritmore was killed, the land of Ritmore was under Greyston, or the Earl of Greyston's custody. So he was really kind enough, Darian was really kind enough to give the land to Tilden, and he was then announced the Earl of Ritmore, I guess. So he was not a man without any land or any title now. He also got the title, so he was all good to go and marry Sidra. They were really happy, and it was announced that they would get married around the time of Christmas. Everyone rejoiced at the news of Sidra and Tilden's marriage, and they were all very happy. Sidra no longer was in danger of Ritmore. Ritmore was dead. Everything was going good for everyone except Christy and Darian. So I'm just wiping off the eyeshadow from my lid because I'll be going on with another base for my lid color. So I'm just taking it off. I'm going in with this Sooo Beauty Hydra FX liner in the shade Fanny Pack, and I'm going to cut my lid with this one. So I'm just layering it on top of my lid. Lid, I'm going in with this beautiful shade called All In, and it's got like a duochrome shift in it. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's just so pretty, so it will layer up very nicely on top of the green. Later, Christy also realized that the villagers also turned cold towards her because they think that she was a cheater and she cheated on their earl, so they were very cold towards her. They wouldn't let their children near her. They wouldn't let her tell her stories, and even when they interacted with her, when she asked them any question or when she wanted to talk with them, she realized they were just being civil with her. There wasn't any sort of warmth in their tone. It was just like very to the point. They would just reply to her and that's it. They wouldn't engage with any sort of conversation with her. So as Sidra's big day was coming up, Christy helped with all sort of preparation, and she also helped her with the gown. And mind that Christy was actually a model in the 20th century, so she knew a lot about fashion, which wasn't even invented back in the 12th century. So she helped her make a very beautiful gown, and she knew all this tricks and tips of creating these plaits and also making the gown very beautiful. Like her wedding gown was a dream gown, and it was unlike anything anyone had seen at that time. So Sidra was really happy, and also one evening they were having a conversation and just teasing Sidra that Tilden and Sidra will make a lot of cute babies, and Sidra was very shy, and they were just jesting around with each other when Christy actually realized that she didn't have her period for a very long time. So apparently she just counted her days and she realized that she is actually pregnant. She told Sidra immediately, and she just said that I didn't have my period for a very long time, and it's been about 2-3 months already. So she probably passed her first trimester. So Sidra was taken aback and she was like, what's a period? And she just then clarified that it's actually the monthly time of the woman. So later Christy decided that she needs to talk with Darian, though Darian was actually giving her the cold shoulder. So she immediately went into his library where he was working, and she knocked and she said that I want to talk with you. And Darian, being the douchebag that he is, he said, I don't have any time to talk with you right now. Please come back again later. Now I'm going in with the shade called Slasher, and I'm just going to deepen my cut crease a little bit so that it gives a little bit more depth. But Christy was not having it at all, and she said that I need to talk with you now, and you're going to listen to me. So Darian was very grumpy, and he just didn't want anything to do with her. Christy told her she is pregnant, and he had the audacity to say that whose is it? Like, can you imagine? And Christy was totally taken aback by his comment, and she was not taking it, so she just slapped him. Served him right. What a douchebag. And that's my girl. So Christy told him that the kid was his and she was never with any other man and she didn't cheat on him. And she said that she missed her monthly even before she got kidnapped. So she was almost like 3 months now, and she got kidnapped like 2 months ago. So she stopped getting her periods even before getting kidnapped. But still, Darian had his doubts in his mind because he thought that she was meeting with Ritmore behind his back when she used to visit the village. So yeah, but he just didn't want to deal with her anymore, so he just said that I will accept it. And she was very, very sad by his behavior, because who does that, right? Also applying the same slasher shade in my outer V area. Time to add some liner in, and I'm using the Too Faced eyeliner. So later Christy decided that she will do everything in her power to make Darian see that she's not a cheater and she loves him. So she will just try to show him that she loves him. So she tried everything that she could do. She tried everything in her power. She always used to make his favorite meals. She tried to be a good wife. She did everything that he liked, but nothing was melting the ice between Darian and Christy. I think Christy tried her best, and given that she was not even from that century, she did a lot for that guy and he was just throwing it all away. And everyone around in the castle actually could see that she is not what he thinks she is. So everyone, even though the people who thought that she was a cheater, they were regaining their trust on Christy, because it shows that she was not guilty. If she was, she wouldn't be going to that extent to do things for Darian in this way. So everyone was just really pitying Darian that he couldn't see what a gem he had. I'm going in with this Juvia's Place a Tribe palette, and from this one I'm taking this shade called Sun for my lower lash line. And I'm just going to be angling it a little bit in the inner corner so that I can have another line going on, and I'm just making the eye look a little bit more dramatic. Now I am going in with the shade You, and I am going to use this one to blend out the darker green color. And in this inner corner, I'm just going to add a tad bit of white liner. So now I'm taking the Folklore Long Lasting Gel Eyeliner pen, and with the help of this, I'm going to line my waterline. Adding in some Huda Beauty Legit Lashes Mascara. And then I will just wear some false eyelashes too. So finally, I'm going to highlight my brow bone, and for that I'm taking this Huda Beauty Winter Solstice Highlighter Palette. And from this one, I'm using the shade Northern Light. So I've worn some eyelashes, and I think I want few gems. I want few rhinestones. So I'm just going to add in some right here. it was almost time of Christmas, and Sidra's wedding was nearing too, because her wedding was supposed to happen on Christmas Eve. So one day Christy was around the village and she saw some people gathering around, and apparently one boy fell into the nearest pond and he was unconscious. They thought he died, but she knew about CPR, and everyone around, the boy's mother and his father, everyone was just crying and crying. But she knew the CPR technique, which was a modern thing, and people back then actually didn't knew about this kind of thing, and these were not invented. So she just wanted to help, and she just told them to move aside and she will try something. So she started doing the CPR and she started breathing into the boy's mouth, and everyone was just so hushed, and everyone was just looking at her like, is she crazy? What is she even doing? The boy is already dead, so what's the point of doing all this, and what the hell is this thing that she is doing? Is it some sort of ritual? Is it some sort of like witchery? They were just totally amazed. And Darian also happened to be near that scene, and he was near in a smith shop, I guess. So he saw that his wife was performing all this crazy thing on the boy, and he was just like, what is she even doing? And later, when the CPR worked and the boy just coughed out some water out of his lungs and he was breathing again, everyone cheered around her, and they realized that their Earl is also there. So they realized Darian is there, so they quickly left the scene. And the boy's mother also thanked Christy a lot. And when everyone left, Darian asked her about what she was doing and where did she learn that, and she just told him obviously that she knows a lot of things which he doesn't, and he was just not getting it, like, how does she know all this thing? So yeah, but later on they were just talking with each other, and I'm so annoyed right now. I'm so annoyed. This is one thing that you can't get rid of when you're filming in Bangladesh. There is just constantly surrounding noise that you can't get rid of. No matter what you're using, what kind of microphone you're using, it's just never going to go. Day she also tried to break the ice one more time with Darian, but he was just being so stubborn, and then she realized that she had done enough and she couldn't do it anymore. He was just not getting it, that she is not a cheater and she loves him a lot. So she at that point gave up, and she was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. She decided that this is the end and she needs to go. She will have to leave, and she was pregnant, plus she was actually really worried that around that time being pregnant was very difficult, because you didn't have any sort of modern clinic or hospitals and doctors. There was nothing like that in that time in 12th century. So having a baby was a very risky thing. Anything could go wrong. If the baby was breached, then she could probably die even. So she was really concerned, and after giving everything a thought and taking Darian's behavior into consideration, she was like, I can't do this anymore, I need to go back. So this is my eye done, so let's get back onto the face makeup. Let's bronze up the face a little bit, and I'm using this Fenty Beauty bronzer in the shade Shady Biz. So Christmas was just around the corner, and it was about 1 week before Christmas. So Christy decided that she's going to give a gift to Darian before she leaves. That will be their parting gift. So she decided on giving him a portrait of herself. So she went into the painter's hut in the village, and she requested him to make a small portrait of herself, and even that man accepted her request. And also he realized that she actually loves Darian so much, like it was all over her eyes, and there was so much sadness too. So the painter was also wishing that Darian could see what he's missing, and that this girl could never actually cheat on him, and she just loves him. So everyone around in the village actually could see that, and they were just warming up to her again, and they were not cold with her anymore. So everyone could see that she loves Darian except Darian. Now in the wedding, Darian's uncle and aunt were invited, and they were very friendly people. So they were really happy that Sidra was finally settling down. And when they arrived in the castle of Darian's, they also saw the situation, that they could see that Darian was actually being very cold with Christy, and they were very concerned. So finally Sidra got married with Tilden, and Christy was so happy for them. And finally what happened was, Darian's uncle was giving him some sort of advice, and he was just like, what's going on? Just tell me what's wrong, and don't tell me that nothing is going on. So he was like, nothing is going on, nothing is wrong, what are you even talking about? But later he confronted him regarding Christy, and he was like, that girl is in love with you, everyone could see that. Tell me that you don't believe what Whitmore told you, because it's completely lie, we could see it, how can you not see it? So the conversation turned into a heated conversation very quickly, and they were practically just screaming at each other. And Darian was so mad that his uncle had the audacity to talk about his marriage, and he didn't like someone scolding him regarding his decision. So it was just, he was just not taking it. And his uncle finally said that girl is in love with you, she loves you. And Darian was very full and final when he said this, that I will never love her. And guess what? Christy heard that, and she was there, and practically they were shouting, so everyone heard that in the party. So it was really embarrassing for her, and it totally broke her heart. So she just ran away, and she was just crying. And Darian actually got to see that she was crying. He got to see her like tear-stricken face, and also how horrified and how sad she looked, and that actually broke his heart. I don't know why. If that broke his heart, then I don't get why he was actually breaking her heart. He's such a stupid douchebag. And by the way, Sidra already knew that Christy was going to leave, because Christy told her before the wedding that this is her final time. She doesn't know when she will meet Jubal, but she's going to leave. And mind that Sidra already knew that Christy wasn't around from this time, and she later on started on believing that, because it was enough proof that she is actually not from around here. So Sidra knew, and they actually said their goodbyes, because as soon as Sidra and Tilden got married, they were off to Whitmore in their new home. So Darian was very mad at his entire situation, so he fled the party. And while he was trying to leave, he saw that the bailey was actually covered in snow around his castle, and he was really mad because that was supposed to be cleared out by this boy. And guess who's that boy? That boy is the spy from Whitmore. And after Whitmore died, he actually didn't get what he was promised. He was promised gold coins, I guess, for being the spy, but he couldn't get that because Whitmore was dead, and that boy was vengeful towards him too. So when Darian came and scolded him for not clearing up the bailey, he was so angry. After getting scolded by Darian, he plotted that he will go to Darian's library where his chest was placed, and he will try to steal from him, and then he will just flee this place, and he will just, go away with all the money and stuff like that. So after Darian left, he came to realize that actually he was wrong, and there is no way Christy is a cheater. he just couldn't hold it anymore, and he just came to the realization that it was all a lie and he was mistaken, and he was gravely mistaken at that point, and he needed to make it up to Christy. Even if he had to beg her forgiveness for the entire life, he will do that. So he realized that, and he decided to come back to the palace and ask for forgiveness from Christy. So when he came back, he just saw that his guards were actually all on alert, and they were capturing someone, and that someone was the spy. He was captured while he was trying to steal from Darian. So later, the boy was very vengeful, and he was very angry when he got caught. He was like, I was the spy, and I stole from you, and I'll steal from you, and I'll flee this place, and he was just blabbering around. So he actually spilled his guts, and he just told him everything, that he was the spy. But Darian already knew that he trusted on Christy now, and when they took away the boy, remember Gladys, the girl from Rhythmore, Christy's maid? She saw that boy, and then she realized she had seen that boy in Rhythmore's castle, and he was the spy. But she didn't know who that was, but upon seeing the boy, she realized this is the exact same person. So she was really afraid, and when Darian was trying to reach to Christy, she was on the way. She was trying to stop Darian. She was just standing in front of him, and she was very afraid. So she was shivering, but she just needed to tell him that that was the guy that she saw passing information to the Rhythmore people. So when Gladys told Darian about this, he was just confirmed once again that Christy was not the cheater. So I'm using this pink flash blush in the code 003. So he finally went to find Christy, and when he found her, he was about to tell her everything, but she just stopped him immediately, and she just told him that I heard what Gladys told to you. I know she told you. And he was like, no, even before she told me that you didn't cheat on me and you are not the traitor, I already came into the realization that you are not the one, and I'm really sorry. And he was just begging her for forgiveness, and she was so angry at him. Why now? Meanwhile, guess who visited Christy? It was none other than Jubal. So Jubal finally made an appearance, and she was like, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. Just take me back in my time. So he gave her and Christiana the option that they will switch places that night when they sleep again, and they will be in their respective timeline or era, and he will come again to both of them 2 weeks later after they switch place and ask them if they want to stay or go back. If any one of them wants to come back and the other doesn't, then there will be no switch at all. But if they decides to switch back, then they would both need to switch their positions, otherwise it's not gonna work. If suppose Christy wants to go back but Christiana doesn't want to leave her own century, then it will not happen. So they will be stuck in their respective centuries. But if they want to go back in their different centuries, then they will both need to come to that decision, vice versa. They would both have to want to be in the other place if they want the switch to happen permanently. So that was what Jubal told her. And Christy also asked for a proof which she can actually show to Darian to make him believe that she's actually not from this time, and she will be leaving him tonight. So she wanted to get a proof which she can show to Darian to make him believe that she's not from this time, and she asked Jubal to bring her one of her magazines where she was on top of the cover. So he did that. He brought her the magazine which she wanted, and later when Darian found her, he was trying to apologize, and she actually heard Gladys talking with Darian. So she was like, I already heard what she told you. And Darian was like, no, 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 it's not what you think it is. I am not just believing you, or I'm not trusting in you after I heard from her. I have already decided that you are not actually what I thought you were, and I'm really sorry, and I will make it up to you my entire life and stuff like that. But Christy was very mad at him because she finally decided to go back, and now he's saying that he realized that she is not the villain that he thought she was. But later Christy actually forgave him, and she finally told him that I got some serious news for you, and you just need to sit down before I tell you anything or I start with everything. Christy told him that she's actually not from this century, and she's from a century and from a country which is still not discovered yet, and she's from New York, and she's the supermodel, she's from the 20th century. And Darian was not getting it at all, and she also showed him the magazine, and he was just so taken aback by that because he didn't expect it to be, and he was just not believing anything. And oh yeah, Christy also asked Jewel if her baby will be alright, and he said that her baby will be fine even they switch place. So Darian was like, no, you're not gonna go, you're carrying my child, you're my wife, how can you leave me? I wouldn't let you go. But she was very sad, and it was just a very sad reunion from their part because they finally realized that they loved each other a lot. Though Darian actually didn't say that he loved her. When he did, she was already fallen asleep, so she couldn't hear that Darian actually loves her. So later that night, they decided to be together, and Darian was really sad, and she actually told him that she was supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks she can decide if she wants to come back or not, and Christiana will switch place with her, and she will be there tomorrow, the next day when she wakes up. So Darian was like, I will make her life living hell. Christiana would want to leave the minute she arrives back in this century, so don't you worry about that, you have to come back to me. And Christy was like, I am not sure if I want to come back, but I just don't know. I have decided to stay back in my own time because I just want the best for my baby. I just want the best service for my baby because medicine or medical science was not that advanced in that century, so she just wanted to be there. And Darian tried his best to make her understand that he would do anything in his power to make everything very comfortable for her. She was not having it at all because she went through a lot the past few months, so she just wanted to be in her own time. And Darian finally requested her that if you're going to decide on anything, then just wait for these 2 weeks and then decide. Don't decide anything right now, just think about it the time when you're away, and then decide if you want to come back or not. Christy was like, okay, I will decide everything after 2 weeks. I wouldn't make any decision right now, I will be deciding after 2 weeks. So next day is the day when they switch place. So Christy and Christiana went back to their respective centuries. Christiana was back in the 12th century and Christy was back in the 20th century. So she woke up and she was in her apartment, and it was like luxury to her because she got everything back, the modern appliances and everything. She was just so happy for a moment that she's back in her own time. She showered very, very happily that day. She brushed her teeth with toothbrush, and everything was just so much more fun to her because she missed all of those things. Christy's sister Danny came to her apartment and she was referring to her as Chris. So Christiana was given this name by her sister probably, and she was called Chris. So let's just not get confused between Christy and Chris. So she was referring her as Chris because Christy actually saw her sister after a very long time. She was kind of shocked and she was just staring at her. And then Danny realized that it is actually Christy, her sister, and it's not Chris. So they finally reconnected and they had a very long chat, and she got to know everything that happened with Christiana. They reconnected, and she also got to know how Christiana has been doing in her time and how she coped up with everything, and she was actually good at being a model, so she was also getting the hang of being in the modern era very nicely. And later that day, someone came to visit Christy, or Christiana, if you know what I mean. So someone was at the door, so Christy went to open the door, and guess what happened? She fainted, because there is a twist, and that is Alexander Maxwell. The name rings a bell, right? So Alexander Maxwell looks exactly like Darian Maxwell, but he's a modern version of Darian. So guess Massimo is the one modern version of Darian, and he looks exactly like him, and he is also a Maxwell. So he's actually a descendant of Darian, and so they're actually from the same family, and he's actually a descendant of the Maxwell, and he's also an Earl, and he's the Earl of Greyston, though everything has changed now. In the modern time, there was no sort of such thing. Those places were just ruins now, because that was like 800 and 900 years ago. Alexander Maxwell is the descendant of Darian Maxwell, and Darian is his ancestor, and they just look strikingly similar. The same way Christy and Christiana looks very similar. It's the exact thing. And actually, Alexander was trying to court or trying to date Christiana, and he really loved her. So Alexander was actually in love with Christiana, and Christiana was really afraid of love and marriage, because to her, marriage was like the end of her life. That's why she actually made the decision to wish on a star in the first place. So she was afraid of marriage. She wasn't just sure about getting married with Alexander, and Alexander was trying his hardest to convince Christiana to marry him, and to convince her that he loves her a lot, and it's not going to be like it was back in her century. So he was trying to convince her, and when he realized that she went back, he was really sad for a moment. And also in the 2 weeks, Christy and Alexander created a bond, like they were good friends, and it would really pain Christy to think that he actually looks exactly like Darian, and she just missed Darian a lot. She missed Darian a lot in that time period. And later, Alexander also made a proposal to Christy when he found out that she was actually with a child. So he wanted Christy to marry him if she decides not to go back. And Christy was at first taken aback by his proposal, but he then explained that if you don't go back, this child is a Maxwell, and he is actually from my family line, so I don't want him to grow up without a father. And as I was already seeing Christiana, no one would doubt that this child is ours, and no one would know what has gone through. So it's the perfect plan, and he just wants the best for Christy and the child, because that's actually his ancestor. Basically, it's so twisted. Christy also visited England to visit Greyston, and she was really sad when she went there, because everything was just a ruin now. Nothing was like it was before. Nothing was like how she saw them. So it was really sad moment for her, and she actually told Alexander all about that she got to see there and how everything was. So it was like a very happy moment for Alexander too, because he got to know a lot of things about his own family from Christy. So they were in England, and later on, when the 2 weeks finished, Christy made her decision, and she actually wanted to go back. So she just couldn't be away from Darian because she loved him so much. So she just wanted to go back, and she decided to tell her sister, and they were really sad because they were actually never going to see each other anymore. So finally Jubal came to Christy and she told him her decision to go back, and also he declared that Christiana wants the same thing. Christiana wants to switch place with Christy finally, and she wants to be in the 20th century rather than in the 12th century. So when they sleep that night, they will again switch place, and that will be the final switch. So Christy finally said goodbye to her sister, and then she went into sleep that night, keeping in mind that she will wake up back in 12th century finally, and she will be with Darian forever. So when she woke up the next day, she was in England and she was in the 12th century, but she was not with Darian. She was not in Grayston. She actually woke up in the same place she was in the first time. She was in Christiana's father's house, and apparently Christiana fled from Darian's place because she didn't want to be there, and she just came back home. And Christiana's father was actually prepared to give a very big lecture to Christiana that she needs to go back to her husband, and she needs to go back to her home and her serve her duties and stuff like that. And Christy already went to Christiana's father to tell her that to tell him that she wants to go back, but he wouldn't actually let her finish, and he was just lecturing her that you need to go back, and you need to go back, and you need to do this and that and that. And Christy was like, okay, yes, okay, Papa, I will go. So they went back that day to Grayston, and when they went there, the gates were closed, and when they tried to go through, the guards actually told them that they are not allowed, and Lady Christiana is not to be allowed inside the castle. Darian completely banished her from his properties, but she understood that he actually didn't want nothing to do with Christiana, the real one. So she was just trying to convince the guards that please open the gates, my husband will understand, tell him that it's Christy, he would understand. And the guards were not having it, and they were just like, no, we can't do that, the master will destroy us if we do that. So I'm taking the Huda Beauty Winter Solstice highlighter palette, the one that I used in my brow bone, and using the same one in my cheeks. So Christiana's father was actually really mad at Darian for doing that, and he was just shouting on top of his lungs that he needs to open up the gates and he needs to talk with Darian. So Darian finally heard him speaking so loudly outside from his castle, so he came in and saw what was going on. So when he saw Christy, he didn't realize that it was Christy. He thought it was Christiana, but she ran into him, and she was just calling his name, and he felt like a deja vu, and he was just thinking that he's probably losing his mind by missing Christy so much that he thinks that Christiana is Christy, and he's actually warming up to her maybe, and he felt disgusted with himself that why was he even liking it that she was calling his name. But later on, when Christy reached him, Christy told him that it's me, it's Christy, I'm here, we are here. She referred to her child, obviously. So Darian was over the moon, he was overjoyed, he was so happy that Christy finally came back to him. And yeah, that's how they actually lived happily ever after. So later on we get to see that about 9 years later, so Christy actually survived the pregnancy, and she actually had 2 kids with Darian. So they lived happily ever after, and Darian was ever so handsome, and Christy was still so in love with him, and she was just so happy, and she was actually finally a wife. She had a home. Her wish was granted. So she had a son and also a daughter. So she had a very happy family and she was happy. So that being that was the end of the story, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the story. I think I'm not good with this kind of thing. I think I messed it up quite a few times when I tried to tell you guys the story, but I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I know there are a lot of loopholes in this kind of stories, but whatever, it's still a very cheery and very romantic love story, and I really loved it since I read it the first time around 12 to 13 years ago. So you guys can understand how close it is to my heart, because till date I still remember it, and it's actually one of the most favorite fairy tale, or like one of the most favorite stories that I've ever read. So yeah, finally it's time for the lips. So I'm lining the lips with my ColourPop lip liner in the shade On Ice. I think I want to go in with this two duo, and I always end up using this in my bridal looks for some reason. I don't know why, but these shades are very beautiful. So these are the NARS liquid lipsticks, and the one shade is Under My Thumb and another one is Rock With You. So I'm just going to use the darker one first, which is the Rock With You one, and then I'm going to use the Under My Thumb in the middle of my lips to kind of create an ombre. Now it seems too dark, but everything will come together. And also I will need to reshape my lips a little bit. So this is the shade Under My Thumb. So this is the entire look. I really hope you guys enjoyed this makeup look and also the storytelling and everything regarding this video. So let me know in the comment section if you guys would like me to continue with this storytelling thing, and if you guys would like me to talk about things which are totally unrelated to the makeup look that I'm doing. So let me know that in the comment section. And also, if you guys like this video, make sure you guys do give this one a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you already haven't. Make sure to like my Facebook page, make sure to follow me in my Instagram because I'm always active in there, and also follow my TikTok. And about the product list, I will be giving that in the description box below, so make sure you guys do check that out for the product list. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be catching you guys again in my next one. Till then, you guys take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Where'd you come from?
Where'd you come from? With you. By the way, I'm from Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Bangladesh. So
Yes.
far away from here.
Oh my god, it's so far away, but oh my god,
Wow.
I'm
Bangladesh.
finally talking with you. Oh my god, I truly can't believe it, and I'm shaking.
No, the way.
No, the way.
Oh my God.
Oh my god.